What are your thoughts on the subject,
Yeah,
Mary?
well, with regard to the first couple of circumstances, the man climbing the hill and the driving the car, I do believe in really just trusting that each one of us has within us our own sort of guidance system, that we know what's right for us. Sometimes people do need some encouragement to kind of go beyond their comfort zone or to push a little further. But, especially with a physically strenuous thing like climbing, my inclination is to honor people's sense of, they know how far they can go or when they need to stop or when they need to rest. And it kind of reminds me of you remember that story that was in the news a few years ago about this guy who was a real high-powered motivational speaker, and he took a bunch of people into a sweat lodge, I think up in Sedona, Arizona or something, and he told them to stay in there longer and longer, and some people died. It got too hot, and he was trying to push them past their limits, and it was too much. So and then regarding the gentleman driving the car, I guess I just feel like, I don't know, I think that for each of us, when we make that transition that we call death, when we move from this physical experience into what I believe is our next physical experience, when we transition at a soul level somehow, I think for each of us, we kind of make that choice about when and how we're going to transition. And so for that man, he, we could say, oh, he should have gotten off the road sooner or gone to a different hospital. He might have still been alive. But, none of us really know what's going on with someone at a deep soul level and what their journey is and how long we're here to be in this physical experience to have the life that we had. And so, I don't know, I just have to trust that at some soul level that man did what was his to do, and the time, in some way, that was his time, I guess, to move into his next life experience, or for his soul to be set free. And regarding killing someone else or someone who's a Facebook killer or any kind of killer, I just really believe in, as much as possible, not doing harm to other people, and that there is such a thing as right and wrong in terms of our human contact with each other and conduct with each other, and people who cause great harm to others are often in a lot of pain themselves, and they're suffering because of whatever life experiences they've had up till that time that often then causes them to do things that strike out to cause harm to other people. And so we just have to pray for the healing of that person, for their healing at a soul level or at a spiritual level, that whatever was going on with him mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, that caused him to kill somebody else, there's always, I think, more that's going on than meets the surface, and so, yeah.
There's a very short expression: hurt people hurt people.
Yeah,
You've heard that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I believe that. So, when someone does something that's really overtly hurtful like that they've been deeply wounded in some ways, and just sometimes get to a point in their life where they just don't know any other way to try to get their needs met or to express what's going on. And so
here's something I wrote in my notebook based on what I saw on a morning news program. Okay, CBS This Morning. I like to watch that. It had to do with, if you have a pet, cat, dog, whatever, you can have a little transmitter implanted under their skin.
Yeah.
And then if they get lost, all right, you can track them,
Right.
all right?
Yeah, I've heard about
Right.
that.
As long as it's within a reasonable distance. And a story was on the news, as a matter of fact, last week, where in Ontario they found a stray cat. So they put the wand over the cat, and oh look, there's a transmitter. And they looked, wait, this couldn't be. This cat is from California.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
So
I heard about
they
that.
called the owner. She said, that cat left 3 years ago. What's going on? I'll be right over. So the
Wow.
owner came and got the cat. Cat was very happy to see the owner, but the question, what did you do for the best? So there are people now in the cities that are very technological, you know, like Seattle and San Francisco, where they want to have an implant put inside the person, in themselves, right, in their hand. That way, they don't need keys anymore. Because when they put their hand in front of their car, it unlocks their car, it unlocks their house,
Wow.
you know what I mean?
I hadn't heard about that.
If they get into an accident, all their medical history is inside that thing.
Wow.
And they feel that I'm more connected and I'm safer getting the implant done. So that's what the story was about. Now you got 3 people on the show, all right? You have Nora O'Donnell, who said, I'm not sure I want something like that that's going to be a part of my body. Then you have Charlie Rose, who loves technology, and he goes, I'm all in. Now you got the third person. Her name is Alex Wagner, okay? And here's what Alex says. She says, I have reservations about that, but if you guys do it, I will. First question I ask myself is, what percentage of the population does Alex represent? Personally, it's not for me. But if everybody else does it, I'll do it.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Regarding this subject or just things in general?
Things
you
in
know?
general.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
people who wait for
Yeah.
other people, then they
Yeah.
follow.
Yeah. You know, there's like a bell curve that I've seen about change and the introduction or acceptance of new ideas. And that there is a certain percent of the population, there's a small percent who I think they're called early adopters. That as soon as Apple announces they're coming out with a new product or something, these are the people that will camp out 24 hours on the sidewalk outside the store that are waiting for the, Apple store to open so they can be the first ones to buy, whatever the new thing, the next newest thing. And then, so there are for any kind of change, there's a small percentage that are early adopters, and then there's another percentage of people that, okay, well now, I know one person that's got that, so maybe I'll go get it, and then eventually you reach a threshold where, maybe a majority of people want to try this new thing or have open to a new idea or something. And then there's always a small percentage that are the last to adopt change, that will always resist some, they're your friends that were the last ones to get a cell phone, or maybe you still even have a friend that doesn't have a cell phone, but that they've actually kind of charted that, that for change or new ideas, that there's always going to be some people that are ready to jump on right away, and then there's a certain tipping point at which a higher percentage of people say, okay, I'm in now, and then there's always going to be 5% that, 10 years from now, they'll still be saying, I'm not ready for that, So we can think about where you are on the scale.
Yeah,
Do you tend to be an early adopter, or?
Well, I'll start out by telling you about myself. I would say that I am an independent thinker. In other words, if I was Alex Wagner in that situation, I would say, definitely not. I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I would be similar to Charlie Rose, who said, I'm going to do it. Count me in. I would say I'm in the opposite school of thought, and then I would give my reasons why I wouldn't.
Oh.
But we just had an election, and was it 40 million people voted for Trump? And I wondered about the thought processes of those people. Like, why would they vote for someone who said, on the day that I'm elected, crime will cease to be in America? Something that's clearly a fantasy, yet they supported that. See? And then when I heard the story and I saw, she was a follower, Alex Wagner. If you guys do it, I'm going to do it. I thought of the rise of totalitarian governments and the people who basically said, well, I'm against him, but if other people are doing it, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there are consequences to that type of, I'll do what everybody else does. There's consequences to that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Richard, when you first brought up the subject about the microchip for people, I was thinking, what if it was something that the government would have access to, where they would know where you are at any given point in time?
Yeah.
I mean, I can think that it could be useful in knowing, if the person had a medical issue, and that could be tracked. But then what if the people knew or didn't know that it could be used another way?
Mm-hmm.
With or without them knowing about it.
Uh-huh.
That's what I was thinking about. It's like kind of like Big Brother watching you, through a microchip that you have implanted in yourself. So.
Did you find that novel prophetic?
I found that, first of all, how would you know it's true? And second of all, if you knew it's true, what would you do? Would you say, yes, I want that? Would you say, no way, I don't want to be any part of that? And personally, I would lean to not wanting that.
You'd be part of the resistance.
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got any thoughts on that, Mary?
Well, I guess I was thinking, I feel like with some things, I'm probably more open to trying it earlier, like maybe trying a new food that I haven't had before, or exercise. And then in other areas, I think I'm a lot more resistant. This particular thing you're talking about, chip in your body, that really feels scary. I'm not big on having stuff put in my body, so
your gut opposes it.
Yeah, my gut feels like, I don't think that's for me.
Yeah.
But then I was thinking, well, in some ways it's not a lot different than, well, I guess it is in some ways, but some people wear a wristband or something if they have a medical condition, if they're epileptic or diabetic, or people wear something, or a necklace or something that has medical information on it, so that if something happens and they're alone, there would be somebody, emergency EMT, people would know right away this person has certain issues. So, but obviously embedding it in your skin is a whole nother.
Mm-hmm. It takes the merging of the mind with technology to a new level. Mm-hmm. There was an experiment at the University of Maryland where they said, would you like to earn $100 to the students? They said, come to our office in the morning. So they came to the office and they said, give us your cell phone, we'll give you $50 now. At the end of the day, you come back, we give you a form, and you tell what would life was like without the cell phone. We'll give you the other $50 and we'll give you your phone back. A lot of people showed up, as you would imagine, an easy $100.
Yeah.
So let's say that 1,000 people were accepted, right? They all got the $50. Out of the 1,000 people, 700 people showed up after lunch and say, here's your $50 back. Can I have my phone?
Wow.
I can't live without
They
it.
couldn't live without it for a day. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
In other words,
Yeah.
whether they realize it or not, those people have already merged with their technology
That's
because
true.
when it's taken away, they can't handle it.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really something. You know, I've noticed, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I pick her up from school every day, and I would say probably about 2 out of 3 people, as soon as they get outside, they go onto some device. And I don't know if they're texting or calling someone or what, but it just blows my mind because I think of what the old days were like.
Yeah, the old days.
And we didn't have that kind of technology, and now these kids, it seems like they can't really live without it.
Do you think it's going to lead to something beneficial?
Oh, well, I'm hopeful that it will. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I've been reading a book lately by Thomas Friedman called Thank You for Being Late. And he's talking about how to thrive in the age of rapid acceleration. And he's talking about, you know, several major trends, globalization and technology and other things that are accelerating rapidly. And this is, of course, an example of it, that we all have cell phones and we can instantly connect with anybody all around the world. And so what he was saying is that in this age of high technology, there's an even greater need for human connection, for people to connect, want just to sit around and have conversations like we're having now, you know. And also, the title of the book, Thank You for Being Late, comes from a story he tells about one, you know, he had a busy, frantic lifestyle. He was always working and going from one thing to the next. And one day he was sitting in a cafe waiting for someone to show up for an appointment, and this person was late. And so he unexpectedly, in an unplanned way, suddenly had this pause break in the middle of his day. He had to sit there for a half hour and wait for the person to come. And so he started to just look around and notice things he wouldn't have noticed otherwise, and appreciate, you know, maybe the birds and the weather and people. And it was in that moment that he really realized how important it is that we need to have these pause breaks in our day. You know, that we can be so busy going from one thing to the next, we don't just pause, you know, to stop, to slow down, to have a little bit deeper conversation than we would normally have. And so now, you know, when somebody's late, he says, thank you for being late. You just gave me the gift of an unexpected, unplanned pause in my day. And so I think of that as an example of something good that can come from, you know, technology helps us connect, but boy, we need to not forget the human connection too. And maybe people are starting to wake up to that more. I don't know.
That ties into another experiment too. This has been repeated, this experiment. It goes like this. You advertise and you say, experiment on memory. Okay? So you get the first 50 people and you bring them into a room and you have paintings on the wall and you might have a television on, and you don't even tell them what to do. You just have them stay in that room for maybe a half hour. And that's part one of the experiment. Part two is you get a different group of people, 50 people in a room, but you make an announcement. You say, this is a half-hour experiment, and this is being filmed. Okay, so that's part two of the experiment. Now you sit down with the part one people, and you say, what do you remember about being in that room? Some people will say, oh, I remember this painting was here, this was on TV, this woman was wearing this colored dress, this gentleman and I spoke about such and such together. You get the second group of people in the room. They remember significantly fewer things. And when you say, you mean you didn't see that painting? And they go, well, you were filming it, weren't you? Their mind told them, oh, it's being filmed? Well, we can relax. We don't have to pay that much attention. The technology's doing it for us. Let's see. Do either of you keep a notebook?
Oh, I mean, I do a lot of journaling, but I don't so much keep a notebook of quotes or stories. I don't know. I mean, I'm often using things in talks or classes that I'm teaching, and I do save some things, but yeah, not as much as.
There's something
Sounds like you're really good at it. Yeah.
I do it all the time. I've been doing it for years.
Great.
Remember the Roadrunner cartoons?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
I love
coyote and the roadrunner.
Yeah.
Okay, now this person wrote back to me with her analysis of the cartoon. And I
Okay.
found this so fascinating. I want to write in my notebook, okay? People relate to the coyote who is up against gravity, right?
Yeah.
Or even the universe. You know, the Roadrunner, he paints a tunnel on the wall and he can run through it, but the coyote slams into the rock because it's
Yeah.
just paint, all right? Technically, the coyote his greatest foe isn't the Roadrunner, it's the laws of the universe. Because they always seem to conspire against him, all right? So, why does he keep persisting? When the rules of reality are fighting you, yet you keep trying to get what you want. So the question then is for all of us when it comes to the cartoon is what is preferable? Constantly being shot down as the universe is recognizing you and saying, I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you do that. And constantly trying, or living a life where you are invisible, unnoticed, and nothing opposes you.
Well, I think the coyote kept doing those things so that Warner Brothers could make a big profit. That's my answer.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it was entertaining, that's for sure.
What's a preferable way to lead your life?
I think there is something to be said for keep trying. If the coyote meets a wall, that's a barrier.
Yeah.
He's got to keep trying.
Yeah.
You know, it's not always going to be something that's painted there that will confuse him and he'll run into it, but there'll be some point at which he'll find a way to get past it, whether it's to keep going or to say, oh, hey, maybe I can just go around and there'll be another way for me to get in here.
Mary, did you root
Yeah.
for the coyote when you saw those cartoons?
No, I don't. I don't remember. I just sort of, I liked seeing him run fast. And yeah.